Please note the following safety rules. Should there be any reason for you to evacuate the chamber, use either of the 2 exit doors. People who use the door located next to the public gallery are advised to proceed through the lobby to the front doors, down the main staircase to the muster point at James Park. People who use the door located to the presiding officer's left are advised to proceed to the gate leading to Backlit Street Extension and then to the muster point at the Old Market Car Park. At the muster points, further instructions will be given by fire wardens or other authorized officials. Also, please sanitize your hands upon entering and leaving the premises at the designated security checkpoints. Social distancing should be practiced at all times. If you have flu-like symptoms and/or a fever, please seek further guidance at our security checkpoints. Thank you for your attention.
You may be seated. Let us now pray. O Almighty God, as we have come together to begin our meeting of the Assembly, we humbly beseech you to grant to all our members the light and guidance of your Holy Spirit, that we may wisely take counsel together and come to such decisions as shall promote your glory and the well-being of all citizens in this our land, so that peace and happiness, truth and guidance may be enjoyed by all people. Grant this for the sake of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. You all may be seated.
Oath of Allegiance of a new member.
May the member for Bonaccord Compoint please bring the motion to the House, please.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer, for giving me the opportunity to join this debate. I beg to move the following motion standing in my name. Whereas equality is defined by the United Nations as equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men, as well as girls and boys. Whereas women and girls have unique challenges they face. Whereas men and boys have experience unique to them. Whereas equality of status remain a priority for this island of Tobago. And whereas the theme for International Women's Day 2022 is Changing Climate, Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Be it resolved that this House recommits its effort to support women and girls in a society that is deeply rooted in protecting the environment.
Announcements by the presiding officer.
This first all-female Tobago Youth Assembly is a collaborative initiative between the Assembly Legislature and the various assemblymen. Permit me to wish a happy International Women's Day to all women in this chamber and all women around the Caribbean diaspora. It was by the way of selection throughout each constituency along with the help of the Tobago Youth Assembly, which reflects the composition of the current Tobago House of Assembly. This all-Tobago Youth Assembly female assembly currently includes youth presiding officer, a youth secretariat, 4 appointed youth councillors, and 15 elected assemblymen. The initiative aims to institutionalize the participation of all women in governments while exposing women to training and experiences geared at expanding their understanding and awareness of related systems, policies, and practices. This all-female assembly aims to give young women a voice on issues while also allowing them to contribute to their overall growth and development, thus fostering a sense of civic responsibility among the island's women and globe by extension. This is the first sitting of the All-Female Assembly 2022, and we do hope that it will be a continuous play for us as women to enhance the island of Tobago by being the voice for our female counterparts. We are pleased to be on the record as women in Tobago leading the way with excellence, successfully participating in this consecutive sitting in this assembly chamber to date for the year 2022. And so, on this day, International Women's Day 2022, a day of action and advocacy by women, for women, as the theme suggests that we should have gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, which shall allow us to contribute toward the creation for a better Tobago. While this year International Women's Days focus on breaking the bias, it comes at a time when the lives of regions of young people have drastically altered as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. In a response to this growing crisis, we use this year's International Women's Day to campaign and serve as a call to action for all stakeholders to prioritize solid investments in young women and women by extension, mental health resilience as a means of furthering the Caribbean's women's development. On behalf of all women and this all-female assembly, happy International Women's Day to the dynamic population of Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago, and the Caribbean region. Additionally, at this time, we, the members of this all-female assembly 2022 and stakeholders see it fit to remind women and citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that we do our part to fight the COVID-19 virus. Continue to strictly adhere to all health and safety protocols outlined at this time. Also, as we commemorate this year, let us remember that as women, we should be our sisters' keeper and stand for each other when no one else stands for us. For it is only effective when we do our part, because we all have a responsibility to help each other as we look forward to a bright and productive future as proud and productive citizens. Say this with me out here today, and let this be a guide for females. I am worth it. I am going to break those generational curses. I will succeed. I am limitless. Anything my hand touches shall flourish. I am my sister's keeper. I am woman. I am strong and I will always win. I thank you.
Assembly bill sent back from Cabinet. Assembly laws brought back from Parliament. Petitions, papers, presentation of reports from, questions to secretaries, request for leave to move the adjournment of the Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance, statements by secretaries or assistant secretaries, statement on the financial status of the Assembly, personal explanations, introduction of bills, motion relating to the business or sitting of the Assembly and moved by a secretary or assistant secretary. Public business.
The motion for this sitting is, whereas equality is defined by the United Nations as equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men, as well as girls and boys. Whereas women and girls have unique challenges that they face, whereas men and boys also have experience unique to them. Whereas equality of status remains a priority for the island of Tobago. Whereas the theme for International Women's Day 2022 is Changing Climate, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Be it resolved that this House recommits its efforts to supporting women and girls in a society that is deeply rooted in also protecting the environment. I now call on the member for Bonaccord Crumpoint to begin this debate.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I am honored to pilot such a relevant motion. Before I proceed, I would like to wish all happy International Women's Day. We are all aware that there are gender inequality issues that plague not only us as women, but girls and boys and men in our society. Let me start by speaking about our women. Despite previous and even existing socio-economic and socio-cultural barriers, we as women have pushed back against and forged ahead in spite of inequalities that we deal with on a daily basis. In layman's terms, we have proven that we can do anything we set our minds to. That is deemed a man's will. Let's look at the political arena, for example. In the past, there were two members of the Assembly, Beatrice Julian and Bernadette Devines. They were the trendsetters. However, we have about 8 women who are actively involved in the politics, holding secretarial portfolios. That itself is a step in the right direction towards gender equality. The way things are progressing, it may not be long before we see our first female chief secretary. Madam Presiding Officer, although we are making progress regarding equality for women, we need to pause for a cause. There is a pandemic that we should speak about, and this pandemic gravely affects women and girls in our society and by extension the world. This happened long before the COVID, and very few are paying attention, and that is climate change. According to the United Nations, climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural and as we go through variations in solar cycle. But since the 1800s, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. You may wonder, what does climate change have to do with women and more so gender equality? Studies have shown that heat waves and droughts and rising sea levels and extreme storms, they disproportionately affect women. And for your parents, they would be able to relate that 1963 flora that hit Tobago. That is because statistically, women are more likely to live in poverty than men, have less access to basic human rights, like the ability to move freely and to acquire land, and they face systematic violence as that escalates during the instability of the economies. Thus, today, the 8th of March 2022, International Day is being celebrated under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, recognizing the contribution of women and girls around the world who are leading the charge for climate change. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 5 and 13 underscore the theme of gender equality and climate action, respectively. Therefore, it suggests that, along with 15 other state goals, we must collectively make strides to mitigate climate change and promote gender equality. Madam Presiding Officer, Climate change is no joke, as we see weather patterns in our country ranging from thunderous showers, flash flooding, landslips, and not to mention the stinging heat. We might even see snow soon, as we would have seen recently a photo of hail in Trin City. Sometimes I even walk through my community of Bonacourt, Crown Point, and I'm sweating from head to toe. As the young people would say, if you know, you know. I am sure that other members of this chambers can attest to the same thing. Notwithstanding these crucial concerns, I must commend the efforts of the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources and the Environment and Sustainable Development, led by a woman, I might add, for trying to mitigate this pandemic called climate change, as I see their efforts to reduce the carbon footprints by planting trees, educating the population, and also focusing on supplying a variety of nutritious foods at affordable prices while reducing the impact on the environment. So efforts are being made, but no doubt more can be done. We women are resilient, innovators, trendsetters, teachers, nurturers. We can undoubtedly play a more integral role as trailblazers. As the area representative of Bonacourt Crown Point, it would be remiss of me to wrap up my contribution and not mention the gender inequality also our men and boys face. Madam Presiding Officer, the lives of men are just strongly impacted by this gender conversation, and as such, we as women, masculinity and the expectations of men as leaders and husbands and sons create demands on our men and more shape their behavior. Men are often expected to solely focus on providing material needs to their family. But what about the caring and nurturing roles? Men are often socialized by family dynamics and other environments that promote risk-taking behavior among young men. These are often reinforced by peer pressure and media stereotype. So the lifestyle of our men often result in their being more exposed to greater risks of disease and health than women. These risks including related incidents, violence, and alcohol assumption. Let me quote, the Express newspaper dated February 22nd stated, a young man was dead mere hours after he reported to the police that he was repeatedly raped and beaten by another man. According to this article, the police did nothing about this young man's initial report. Madam Presiding Officer, this hurt my heart and I express condolences to the family of this young man that was faced with this unfortunate ordeal. But I have hope, Madam Presiding Officer. I have hope, and I know that the members of this chambers have hope too. We are far from a perfect society, but we are a society that are hopeful, and we can propel the change. Madam Presiding Officer, I know that the members of this progressive island of Tobago also share my hope and will prove by voting resoundingly to this motion to be passed today. Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer.
Member representing Bethesda Lescato, Mrs. Laverne Stewart Charles. Also reminding all members that phones are supposed to be on silent or vibrate for the entire sitting.
It's a man's world, but it will be nothing without a woman or a girl. Pleasant good afternoon, Presiding Officer, Youth Speaker, all special guests, my colleagues, social media, internationally, regionally. Happy International Women's Day. To quote the great James Brown, thank you for supporting equal rights. From strong winds
ripping off roofs to landslide destroying our roads, even neglected beaches. Erosion is causing turmoil in Tobago, and it's important that women and girls get involved. In strategizing and planning for climate change, caring for the environment. Climate change is constant, weather is always changing, and so should growth, the growth process in nation building, in creating laws. In recognizing the importance of women and girls in decision making, businesswomen, educators, caretakers. In Tobago, we can move forward by getting girls involved as young as 5 in the understanding of proper home building and construction, drainage, as well as roof construction. Not just the involvement of drafting and making suggestions for laws, but implementing such. The Society of Tobago is plagued, or some might even say blessed, by a lot of single mothers, as well as matriarchy homes. These mothers may be more concerned when making their children eat, basically survive gathering food. They were never taught shelter, etc. Basically, our homes are run, our society in Tobago is run by women. Women becoming more empowered in advancing gender equality. This can deliver results across a variety of sectors, including food and economic security, health. It can also lead to more environmentally friendly decision-making at the household and national levels. CBD 2014, UNCD, COP2 2013, UNFCCC COP, Women in Power, COP 2014. Women empowered in Tobago can be seen in my district of Golden Lynn, Bethesda. 2 women joined forces to create a beach clean campaign. We joined forces with our male counterparts, and we cleared trees, we moved tracks from erosion and graded. You know, we joined together and we came up with ideas, more or less, that will help us come together and work together as a force. We did this. We did this by planning ahead. We sat together and we decided that we saw that our area of our beaches were falling apart. So we decided to start on that project as women and got involved with our main counterparts by adding that to it. In recognizing the importance of women as decision makers, businesswomen and educators in Tobago, we move forward by getting girls involved as young as 5 in the understanding of proper home building construction, drainage, as well as roof and construction processes. Our society needs to understand that we need to get together as one, knowing that our women are the forces of single parents' homes. We are, so sorry. Right.
Take your time, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Right, I just found some. Right, sorry, good. I found it. Can I start again? Sorry. Friendly decision making and home leaders. Okay, in Golden Lane of Bethesda, 2 women joined in Golden Lane to form a beach cleaning campaign. We created beaches cleaning campaign. We joined forces with our male counterparts. We cleared roads and we created temporary bridges. This was no easy task, though we were thankful for our male counterparts that made the work seem very easy. We as women planned ahead and we organized as individuals, gathering together our resources in the planning stages of our environmental cleanup. It is work in progress, yes, but we can work together with our males in making sustainable environment decisions. Women are nurturers by nature, yet still 70%, yes, I said 70% of our population that are poor are women. Is it because we are not capable of advancing, or is it because opportunities are not given? or created for us. If women in Tobago are surviving and managing homes and institutions with equal homes and institutions on their own with barely enough knowledge and understanding of the environment and how it relates to our upbringing. There are so many women in Tobago that can't really help themselves in the sense of if a roof fall off in the rainy season, we're not knowledgeable enough to go up on that roof and knock it in ourselves. We have to get our meal compact. We have to go to places and find resources that will help us. With the proper training, we will understand this from small. Our girls will know how to build drains, and we will know how to build our homes in the proper places that when landslide occurs, we will not be so affected. With the pre-knowledge of that, and with government not just getting us involved, but drafting out laws and plans that make these things possible. From small, we can go ahead and function as a proper society, having both males and females involved. From climate, oh my goodness, I am pulling up words here. Right, okay, so we could go on to say even according to the environmental cleanup program, we have like work in progress where we say that women should be more or less involved in the decision making, the decision planning, the strategizing and coming together with our male counterparts to make a difference in our community. Far too long we stand and we let males do everything. We are for the motion that women as well as men from little as we grow in our environment should be a part of the nurturing and caring of our environment. Women by nature, as we said, are basically nurturers, and we want that ability to be able to function with our male counterparts as we go forward as Tobagonians and citizens of Tobago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, member. May the member for Bagatelle Bacolet, Mrs. Abby Gray Warner.
In the words of the late great Kofi Annan, former Secretary General of the United Nations, gender equality is more than a goal in itself. It is the precondition for meeting the challenge of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance. Good afternoon, Madam Presiding Officer, and other members of this Honorable House. Based on the motion laid today, I am privileged to stand before you as a young, resilient female representing the Bagatelle Bacolet constituency. Happy International Women's Day. Madam Presiding Officer, the motion debated on this auspicious day is an extremely crucial one, as the theme for International Women's Day 2020 is Changing Climates, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Based on this, it is noteworthy for me to agree that the rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men, as well as girls and boys, should be equal. Women and girls experience unique challenges. Naturally, women gravitate to less robust jobs. But for those women who've decided to move away from that concept, especially going into the construction sector or the national security sector, they find themselves at a disadvantage. For instance, in the disaster response jobs, these jobs are male-dominated. This can be proven by the very fact that the PPEs used to protect women were constructed for the bodily contours of a man. Women have been challenged with wearing ill-fitting overalls, trousers, boots, etc., in the execution of their duties, as the PPEs are legal requirements. Conversely, men and boys experience unique challenges to them as well. Sadly, men have been cultured to believe that there are men's jobs and women's jobs. Another unfortunate challenge for men is that they believe that it is believed, that a man should not show emotions as well because he will be regarded as weak. Empathy in homes are lacking towards the boys who develop into men. Boys are often told to man up, take control. These boys then develop into men who then inflict their dominant behavior against women, resulting in the imbalance or vast disparity we see prevalent today in relation to gender balance. Madam Presiding Officer, permit me to expound on a personal experience. I am a lone female in a house comprising of my husband and 2 boys. My husband did not receive physical expressions of love, attention, and reassurances from his father as a child. After having our son, I saw that this dangerous cancer of love from a distance emerging between them. I immediately impressed upon my husband the need for him to show expressions of love to his boy child, as he had a twisted concept that only girls were privy to that. What I've realized is the boys are more closely knit and also very open with communicating issues affecting them without aggression or dominance. Additionally, accomplishing tasks at home is not a mommy or wife role. What needs to be done is accomplished by whomever is available. Children are sponges. They ingest what they see. Madam Presiding Officer, do you see where the paradigm shift in gender equality can start? Emma Watson, English actress and activist, cited, both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. Tobago, equality of status remains a priority for the island, as the newly installed Tobago House of Assembly has a strong lineup of capable women. Particularly on this day, though we still find gender equality elusive, we have accomplished a great milestone. As our Tobago slogan says, she becomes more beautiful. Climate change impact creates greater vulnerability for women. Consequently, greater dependency is placed on men. Because women are largely affected, women become more effective in creating sustainable initiatives to adapt to climate change as she asserts herself to alleviate the pressures associated with it. Fortunately for Tobago, Assemblyman Charles Pantin, also the Secretary of the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, is well poised to inform policies to mitigate the effects of climate change for women in Tobago, as she took her rightful position at the decision-making table via the Executive Council. Note well, for the majority of her professional life, she worked in the division she currently is responsible for. Madam Presiding Officer, great inspiration and motivation for our young women in Tobago. Because Secretary Pantin is quite aware of the harsh social, physical, and financial impacts that climate change brings, especially to women, she will bring her interdependent skills, which will be met by the independent skills of her male counterparts, which will provide balanced outcomes derived from policy-making decisions we all will be affected by. In light of the foregoing, re-educating ourselves and our young children is the corridor to navigate a new destiny towards gender equality and sustainability. The ultimate goal is for both genders to operate interdependently to mitigate the effects of climate change as it is inevitable. Alan Watts, the English writer, postulated that there is an interdependency between flowers and bees. Where there are no flowers,
Member, may you please be cognizant of your time? May you please be cognizant of your time? The speaking time for the member is extended by 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Alan Watts, the English writer, postulated that there is an interdependency between flowers and bees. Where there are no flowers, there are no bees. Where there are no bees, there are no flowers. They are really one organism. And so in the same way, everything in nature depends on everything else. Madam Presiding Officer, sustainability tomorrow, I say yes to that balanced gender climate change today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, member. May the member for Signal Hill, Patience Hill, Ms. Shadia Sargent, please present.
Madam Presiding Officer, and other notable members of the House and viewing audience. I, Shadi Sargent, the member for Signal Hill, Patience Hill, would like to speak in furtherance of this motion. And may I say, Happy International Women's Day to all. Madam Presiding Officer, equality of right, responsibility, and opportunity is important. The Norwegian Minister on Foreign Affairs 2013 indicated that women's rights are being fought for all over the world. These efforts have given millions of girls and women access to education and health services, the opportunity to exert an influence in politics and economic independence. But gender equality is not just about women. It is about changing relations between women and men. An active participation of men is therefore vital for its success. Madam Presiding Officer, there are unique challenges faced by women and girls. As acknowledged by Bearden 2014, some unique challenges that women and girls face are financial exclusion, limited educational opportunities, insufficient access to sanitation facilities, limited access to land, safe shelter, and poor medical health, and access to health information. One of the main challenges, however, is financial exclusion. 37% of women worldwide have the main challenges, have a bank account as compared to 46% of men. Additionally, more women report using someone else's account than men, revealing key barriers for women opening their own account. Despite the gender gap in global financial inclusion rates, research affirms that children's lives improve when women are more involved in money management in their households. Madam Presiding Officer, there are unique experiences men and boys have. According to Baker 2022, toxic masculinity is a byproduct of gender inequity. Toxic masculinity is a problem that impacts both men and women. Toxic masculinity says men must subscribe to a certain definition of manhood to be worthy, as a man and woman must also adapt certain traits associated with that definition. Of manhood to succeed. Both ideas are dangerous and false. Promoting gender inequality, suicide among males today is nearly 4 times higher than among females, and male suicide represents 79% of all instances of suicide. Additionally, men don't usually report their issues because of the social pressure to fit the stereotype of what a man should be. Madam Presiding Officer, equal status is important for Tobago. Equal status ensures Tobago's ability to make laws specific to its needs. In many instances, laws passed in international parliaments don't consider the uniqueness of Tobago. In these cases, the laws are not relevant to the Tobago status quo and can negatively impact certain sectors. For example, there are laws that prohibit the hunting of certain endangered species of animals in Trinidad, but don't consider the large population of that same species in Tobago that are affecting crops of farmers.
Hi. Excuse? Right. Member, you have 1 minute left.
Furthermore, there is a grave disaster that negatively affects the infrastructure and economy in Trinidad, but has little effect on Tobago's infrastructure. Tobago, no doubt, would experience economic hardship as our major food and infrastructural suppliers and government services are all central in Trinidad. On the other hand, if Tobago enjoys equal status and can develop at the same pace as Trinidad in its infrastructure and economy, both islands can assist each other, perhaps in an unlikely event that occurs. Madam Presiding Officer, equality today can ensure a sustainable tomorrow. Inequality leads to suppression, and suppression only breeds conflict, which is largely responsible for many wars fought among nations in the past. To take, for example, the inequality of the slave trade that repressed many slaves.
You have exceeded your time.
Fought among nations in the past. Take, for example, the inequality of the slave trade that repressed many slaves and was one of the main criteria that sparked civil war in the United States between 1861 and 1865, and as indicated by Hassler 2021. The present war in Ukraine is another example of suppression resulting in utter destruction. Likewise, inequality between the gender can only bring further conflict, and conflicts only further divides us. Similarly, the inequality between our island can only worsen the relationship between our islands. However, there is strength in unity, and fairness and equality can go a long way in building unity. Equality of status and sharing resources will no doubt lead to equal development of both our islands, infrastructure and human resource. Remember, a chain is as strong as its weakest link, and elevating Tobago to the same degree as Trinidad and women to that of men can only build our country's resilience and society's resilience, ensuring a sustainable future for both islands and genders, respectively. Madam Presiding Officer, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Member. May the member for Bukumong present, Ms. Eastlyn Thomas, please present. Let me please remind this humble house that the speaking time allotted to each member is 5 minutes. When you have 1 minute remaining, I will let you know. After that, you The leader of assembly business could ask for 2 minutes, and after such, your mic will be cut.
I would like to say good evening to everyone here, to the House, the Speaker, and happy International Women's Day. My colleagues had time to do researches, but I would do from a grassroots perspective of the struggles that women faces in the island of Tobago. As we celebrate Women International Day, we have come a long way in the struggles for equal access to opportunities throughout the world. But within the island of Tobago, we have a long way to go. COVID-19 have affected a large number of our women very badly through the lockdown period. This is because many of our single mothers work in services industry, example, restaurants, hotels, bars, casinos, and small businesses. Because of this, many have been placed on the breadline and loss of home, unable to access a daycare, fear of leaving children by acquaintance or unattended because children authority can't. So with this pandemic, we, the government, have to do more in order to help single mothers, whereas many are not granted food cards to purchase food for the children. Just the other day, I was getting a phone call for a single mother who have nothing to eat. So the little I have at home, I had to rush so that her 3 children could get something to eat. Enough are not being done for in social services for people to know the different services that is provided for single mothers, like clothes, rental grants, clothes, appliances, and school books for children. I believe there much to be done still, and they can't do it alone. So let's act on relevant authorities, persons who know of information to help. Yes, we celebrate Women's Day, but a lot of women still struggle, and many of us know, but many are afraid to help. So I would like to say, oh my God. I just like to say that we women have to stand and build one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. Member representing Belgarden Glamorgan, Ms. Kelsey Toussaint.
Okay, take your time. Good afternoon, Madam Presiding Officer, my fellow colleagues. I want to wish everybody a happy International Women's Day. I go by many different names. Most of you know me by Kelsey. Sometimes I'm Babe, Mommy, Mrs. Reed, Coach. And despite all that hard work I've put in, I'm where today. Sometimes when I have to assert my authorities, you would hear statements like, she a man problems or would be swirling around the air. I'm a civil environmental engineer by trade, and throughout college, I was in the minority, firstly for being Black,
and secondly, for being a female. And when I returned, I remember entering the job market and going on an interview, and the interviewer thought it, okay to mention so many women interviewing for these positions. Not cool at all, right? Even now, as a supervisor in the construction industry, I am in the minority. And I want to just say all these things to let you know, this is just a taste of what I have to go through as a woman in a male career path. This year's International Women's Day theme, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow, can have so many meanings. But in my mind, it's a timely warning because the same time bush drop her water, it does rotten. She becomes more beautiful, a tagline associated with our African heritage, also represents our potential as an island to be fruitful, to be fair, where words like vulnerable, marginalized would be a thing of the past. Yet, like the island, we women are in a constant struggle for recognition to break the ceiling on our progress. The reference, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, are female for a reason. It speaks to a mother's intuition to protect her young, to mold them in a way that is right, of course, and women's fertility as evidenced by the beauty of our flora and fauna on the island of Tobago. Phrases like these are indicative of the significant roles girls and women play and will continue to play in sustaining the earth, ever more so with the threat of global warming hanging over our heads. The fact remains, the world is becoming too hot to handle. Madam Presiding Officer, who are most at risk? The poor and women. Oh, sorry, little nervous. Women who now have to weigh the option of buying a car and thereby adding to our carbon footprint because traveling in the public transportation system is Russian roulette. Equality today means holding all the players accountable, inclusive of our Ministry of Security, to ensure safe environments for girls and women to live, grow, and play. If you check the statistics, 75% of single families are run by women, and they are 6 times likely to live under the poverty line. What does that mean? I work at the Division of Infrastructure, and we are constantly going on assessment to these homes because the storm events think it's okay. They're easy targets for the stronger winds, heavier rainfalls, and the subsequent effects, all associated with climate change. Equality today means stepping up as an island to help these women with designs, consultation on materials, and guidance so that tomorrow we're not running around trying to provide emergency temporary shelter. Who is at risk? There's a need to note that environmental protection has taken a backseat to the forms of development. Juxtapose what happens to the environment with infrastructural growth. Why is this? What is missing? Why is it seen as less worthy? How do we as a society balance the agendas? Our Ramsar site, the Bonaccord Lagoon, is the womb of the Boku Reef, and it's been affected by our activities.
You have 1 minute left.
Okay. And tourist activities. This is compounded by global warming. Imagine if she becomes stagnant or barren. Equality today means more than legislation, but active protection by our citizens so that tomorrow we can continue to have a reef to explore and fish to consume. Women have been championing the cause for both locally and abroad. And we could mention Christina, and she was instrumental in having the Paris Agreement signed, but we don't need to look there because right at home, we have persons like Patricia Turpin fighting for the cause and protecting the environment of Tobago. And then I just want to big up my sister a little bit. She is also from the constituent of Bellegarde and Goodwood, and she has formed an NGO that's bringing a different look, a youthful take on protecting our island against global warming. So in closing, the constituency of Bellegarde and Goodwood strongly advocates for this motion because women are just as brilliant and innovative and will be crucial in the fight against climate change and what it means for sustainable development. Let's break this bias. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, member. May Councillor Tremaine Bowman please present.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I wish everyone present a happy International Women's Day 2022. Social exclusion of women, the gender wage gap, racial segregation, violence against women and girls, a raging viral pandemic, a war in Europe. No, this is not the 1900s. This is 2022. Here and now, in the 22nd year of the 21st century, we are here to debate equality for women. In a time when we expected to see flying cars, skyscrapers to heaven, we still see that that equality for women is not advancing rapidly enough for us to become a safe and sustainable society for all persons, including women and girls. Whereas the theme for International Women's Day 2022 is changing climates, equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, be it resolved that this House recommits its efforts to supporting women and girls in a society that is deeply rooted in also protecting the environment. Gender equality is Goal 5 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. When we look at the 3 pillars of corporate sustainability, social, environmental, and economic sustainability, also known as the triple bottom line, people, planet, and profits, these pillars are unachievable without women. As it pertains to social sustainability, the United Nations reports that when women are meaningfully represented in leadership roles, engaged as decision makers, and are enabled to influence policy, laws, rulings, and decisions tend to be more inclusive and representative, and this allows for diverse views to be taken into account. Countries with a greater proportion of women as top decision makers in legislatures have lower levels of income inequality. The United Nations also reports that peace agreements are 35% more likely to last at least 15 years if women leaders are engaged in its creation and execution. When women representation in parliament is increased by a mere 5%, a state is 5 times less likely to use violence when faced with an international crisis. Global statistical data acquired between 1977 and 1996 indicated that the higher the proportion of women in parliament, the lower the likelihood that the state carried out human rights abuses, such as political imprisonments, torture, killings, and disappearances. Even with the management of the pandemic, check the ICUs, go to Scarborough General Hospital, and check and see that it is the female doctors, nurses, and hospital staff are the ones managing the pandemic, managing the hot zones, and are still subjected to being overlooked for top positions at some hospitals. With all that we see happening in the world today, some may argue that if nations were led by women, most of what is happening now would not be happening. As we look at environmental sustainability, a researcher from Harvard, Claudia Golden, found that of all fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics had the smallest percentage difference in gender wages between men.
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Between men and women compared to other fields. This is likely due to the fact that these fields allow for flexible hours, target-oriented goals versus time-oriented goals. As such, women are able to balance family life and their jobs. Even when we look, there's an eco-gender gap. Women take on the brunt of becoming more eco-minded. We are more likely to make green choices. We are more pro-social, altruistic, and empathetic. We possess a strong ethic of care. We are socialized to be more nurturing. Ergo, we are more socially responsible, which leads into us adopting more environmentally sustainable behaviors. And even so, as we make greener choices, we are more likely to become climate refugees and shelterees due to being displaced by hazards and disasters of increasing frequency and intensity due to climate change. However, right here in our region, women are leading the call to action.
Your time has expired.
I'd like to move that the speaking time for the member extended to a further 2 minutes.
The speaking time for the member is now extended by 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Right here within our region, women are leading the call to action as it pertains to environmental research and disaster and emergency management. Right here in Tobago, we have a cadre of women leading the charge for emergency management at the Tobago Emergency Management Agency. Look in your communities, who are the volunteers to first be out when there is a landslide, when there is a flood? It is almost always women. And finally, economic sustainability. For too long, men are seen as the money makers and women as the caretakers. The Peterson Institute for International Economics reported that firms with women in executive officer and director positions post higher annual profit margins than those without female leaders. Equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. As can be seen, that these three pillars of sustainability are only achievable when women are meaningfully represented. As sea levels rise and hydrometeorological events tear through the region and continue to affect Tobago, it is my hope that in 10 years, when my nieces come to debate a motion, equality will no longer be a goal. I expect that equality would be the norm. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I now ask Councillor Judith Trim to present.
Happy International Women's Day to all women today. Good afternoon, Madam Presiding Officer and all members of this august chamber. Madam Presiding Officer, it is a privilege for me to be given this opportunity today to put my 2 bits on women in a changing climate, and not only a woman, but a senior woman in this society. Madam Presiding Officer, I had to do research. I had to browse the World Wide Web to help me present today. First of all, Madam Presiding Officer, the good book, the Bible speaks of, and I quote, Psalm 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. Madam Presiding Officer, I am not here to preach a sermon to you, but the earth is God's glory, that is both man and woman, and all that is created in it. There are many women we can still learn from in the Bible. On Mother's Day, we often hear talk of a virtuous woman, and that proverb demonstrates God created us all equal. Man and woman had equal responsibilities, but it was just a bit different. The woman was industrious, the man a gatekeeper. And on this side, Madam Presiding Officer, we are saying we women have creative ideas, and are industrious, but we just need the appropriate tools. Only last Friday at Mount Irving Beach Facility, I observed the sargassum seaweed along the seashore. And an older woman filled 2 plastic bags full. I asked her if she is going to use that for her plants. She then started to say, you all there now in government must learn from the local farmers and come up with ways of making byproducts that can also be exported, thus bringing in revenue. And this afternoon, I am presenting her suggestions before my esteemed honorable colleagues. Look, I even found the clipping. And when I show my colleagues, I know they will take a more in-depth look at that prospective enterprise. Madam Presiding Officer, perhaps it is because of the climatic changes that we are now seeing this type of weed along our shores, but we can use it to our advantage. We on this side are green, but we are listening. We will continue to we will continue to include the seniors in our drive for continued growth and development. Madam Presiding Officer, let me quote from a newspaper article of Saturday, the 2nd of March, 2022, by Antonio Guterres. And let me also say thanks to the chairman of the organization, Trinidad and Tobago Association of Retired Persons, Mr. Selby Cole, through which I got this opportunity. He sent me this clip, and I quote, "Women's right, moving backwards. The pandemic has highlighted, even more starkly, an age-old truth. The roots of patriarchy run deep. We still live in a male-dominated world with a male-dominated culture. As a result, in good times or bad, women are more likely to fall into poverty." Unquote. But all would see, Madam Presiding Officer, we have included in our portfolios the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing, and the Environment, all encompassing. Quote, "We need economic progress through targeted investments in women's education, employment, training, and decent work. Women should be first in line for the 400 million jobs we are called to create by 2030.
Member, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Gender inequality is essentially a question of power. Uprooting centuries of patriarch demands that power is equally shared across every institution at every level. Every step of the way, we can take inspiration from women and girls pushing for progress in every sphere and every corner of our globe. For example, unquote, Greta Thunberg, a Swedish environmental activist who challenged world leaders to take immediate action for climate change mitigation, and Aika Metafala, recruitment official, African Climate Alliance, South Africa. Look up the internet and read what these young females had to say. I continue my quote, "Young women, climate campaigners are leading global efforts to pressure governments to live up to their commitments," end of quote. Madam Presiding Officer, we have heard the call as a division and as leaders at this time, and that is why this motion is presented in this way before this honorable chamber. Madam Presiding Officer, before I take my seat, I say thanks to the Division of Health, Wellness, and Social Protection, Coordinator for the Asian, for this special opportunity to present here this afternoon. And Madam Presiding Officer, let me also thank you, the Coordinator, and the Assembly Legislative staff, by extension, for this privilege. I thank you, Madam Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I now ask Councillor Yates to present first, please.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Good evening, ladies, and happy International Women's Day. Today, I support the motion presented. The support is not for women only, but for the equality for men and women for future sustainable development of Tobago. Within this, the 21st century, women's roles and responsibilities have evolved. This is mainly due to the change in societal values and norms. But the question remains, where are we evolving? And are we evolving as quickly as we can? According to world statistics, 49.6% of the world is comprised of females. Madam Presiding Officer, do you feel equal to the man standing alongside you? Ladies, do you feel equal to the man sitting beside or walking next to you? In this 21st century, the answer is no. I believe this is mainly due to the fact that although the equal sign of two lines can never meet, they remain forever parallel to each other, working harmoniously to a greater good. This understanding must be ingrained in our young males and females. They must be aware that they are given specific roles and responsibilities which must be committed to in order to ensure a sustainable Tobago. Climate change has already begun to affect this beautiful island of Tobago, as evident in rising sea levels at Buku Bay, Pigeon Point, and other areas. It has also been seen in dry season with increased rainfall, leading to landslides and other effects. The United Nations has noted that there has been a significant increase in unpredictable climates in the areas of increased and strong hurricanes, earthquakes, and droughts. In international agreements through COP26, nations have begun to create mitigation and adaptive policies to ensure protection of their people and their land. They have identified that women has a major part to play in climate change. For this to be a success for both genders in Tobago, we must understand that women bring a unique, valuable perspective and information to the table to ensure sustainable development. Equality must therefore be inclusive as we incorporate gender-sensitive strategies to respond to humanitarian cries caused by climate change. Through studies of history, example, Haiti, of natural disasters, we have recognized, Madam Speaker, that women are the most affected in climate change. Food security, water, and access to resources are the most challenging for women and children, especially in rural areas. This creates vulnerability of this demographic in which forces them to make uncomfortable decisions to ensure the survivals of themselves and their family by succumbing to predators. We ask ourselves, is there finance available in order to ensure that food security, water, and access to resources is available? The financial resources do exist to prepare us. Madam Speaker, we only have to look to the international assistance offered by mandates such as that since 2015, the Paris Agreement, now COP26, where they have pledged to assist third world countries financially, technically, and in building capacity. So how can we, Tobago, be able to assist in climate change? We can begin by creating NGOs, ensuring government.
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. We can ensure that by creating NGOs, ensuring government implement legislations and policies to protect our young ladies and our future generation, and also including the private sector in investments for that of food security, water, and access. In the area of agriculture, for example, focus can be placed on single-parent, female-led households for the distribution of land for residency
In the area of agriculture, focus can be placed on single-parent female-led households for distribution while cultivating product through the use of technology. We can further encourage females youth with science and technological ventures, increase access to funding for research, and increase scholarship opportunities for Tobago women and men. This can further women and men by allowing them to create tools and means of efficiency that are affordable.
You have exceeded your time. The speaking time for the member is now extended by 2 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Presiding Officer, as I close, in life there are 3 C's, and today, as women sitting here, we must be cognitive. These 3 C's are choices, chances, and changes. This, Madam Presiding Officer, is our opportunity as women to ride the big wave as it presents to us, knowing fully well that this is the chance to stand for women to lead in creating and being able to create monumental change. Let us not be afraid to break the bias while we hinder our progress and chances for the creation of our children's future. It begins here and now with our choices. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I call upon this Assembly to ensure women are asserted to positions of policymakers and leaders where they can contribute impactfully as agents of change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I now ask Minority Councillor Denicia Mackenzie to present first, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Presiding Officer and members of the House. A happy International Women's Day to you. Madam Presiding Officer, gender equality refers to the equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men and girls and boys. When issues of gender equality and discrimination are mentioned, we automatically respond by thinking of the deprivation, destitution, and austerity associated with the historical and modern-day struggles of women. However, we do not associate such terms readily to men and boys alike. The question, Madam Presiding Officer, is why? Is it that we have forgotten that the Equal Opportunities Act speaks to the rights of men and boys as well? Madam Presiding Officer, there is considerable evidence to support the motion that when gender inequality is high, forest depletion, air pollution, and other measures of environmental degradation are also high. There is also evidence to demonstrate that women are active agents of conservation and restoration. There has also been mentions that an increase in women in leadership positions results in better resource management, disaster risk management, response plans, and better monitoring patterns of consumption. While the contributions of women in the area of environmental sustainability is indeed a noteworthy accomplishment, here is where the bias lies. Madam Presiding Officer, if I were to simply alter the main noun in the achievements outlined above to read, men are active agents of conservation and restoration, or an increase in men in leadership positions results in better management of resources, there would be a colossal outcry from women's groups stating claims of gender bias. So why is it okay to positively stereotype one gender and not both? Let us remember that the Equal Opportunities Act knows no gender. To state that one gender operates at a higher level to others invites discrimination. It is important that in our communication, we do not create direct evidence of gender bias against men. Madam Presiding Officer, it is of more importance to focus on competency and not gender in order to attain a sustainable environment in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Presiding Officer, we often concentrate on conventional definitions of gender when speaking of equality. However, it is important that we modify our perceptions and desist from the view that it is two opposing ideals and understand that gender is a spectrum. And until we grasp this concept, we cannot successfully build a sustainable environment. Madam Presiding Officer, notwithstanding the disadvantages experienced by women and girls, they are not the only affected demographic. The Human Rights Campaign describes gender identity as one's innermost concept of self as male, female, a blend of both or neither. How individuals perceive themselves and what they call themselves. One's gender identity can be the same or different from their sex assigned at birth. Viewing gender as a spectrum leads to a discussion on equality that we as an island are not equipped to effectively handle at this time. In this modern era, individuals that belong to the LGBTQIA community also experience issues of discrimination and gender inequality. Equality for these individuals is principal to developing a sustainable environment. Madam Presiding Officer, yes, today is International Women's Day, but within this demographic, we have individuals who identify as female. So what occurs in such circumstances? Do we assign these persons to a gender group based on their physical appearance and award them the struggles and victories associated with their physically assigned group? The LGBTQIA community encounters issues that are similar to those experienced by women, both socially and environmentally, such as poverty, workplace discrimination, and healthcare. While the contributions of women are touted publicly, it is a little known fact that individuals who identify as queer are more attuned with the environment. Both LGBTQIA rights and environmental stewardship would improve the lives of millions of people. Therefore, it is imperative to end the discrimination for all groups of society, not just for women, as they are no longer the only vulnerable group in need of equality. If, as a nation, we accept that gender is a spectrum and not patriarchy versus matriarchy,
Member, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you, or heterosexuals versus LGBTQIA, and work together to create equality for all, then we will truly achieve environmental sustainability by first living more sustainable lives, working as a collective to set sustainable goals, reducing poverty levels associated with women, children, and the LGBTQIA community, and by developing inclusive mitigation strategies and infrastructure that benefit all groups within the society. Madam Presiding Officer, I thank you for allowing me to contribute to the debate.
Thank you very much, Minority Councillor. I now ask the Minority Leader, Ms. Shanice Wills, to present for us, please.
Madam Presiding Officer, I dream of a Tobago where, as described by Dr. Woods of Journal of Social Studies 2022, as a state of having similar opportunities, rights, and status. Happy International Women's Day to my lovely country, by extension, the world. My name is Shanice Wills, representing the area of Dallas Spring Wim, and let's get down to business. Life opportunities, men versus women. We live in a society where gender bias is very high, but let's start off with our females. We females aren't born with labels. Why should we be labeled aunties? Women are being told that they need a man to look after or take care of them, which causes a woman's self-esteem to break or her confidence in herself to drop. Some women no longer feel independent enough to take care of themselves and family. Something was brought to my attention. I'm hearing things like, it's a woman's job to cook, clean, take care of her children, feed me or in other words, feed a man. That's right, but what she's supposed to do, like if it's not a man's job to also do that, come on, it goes both ways, people. Our males haven't forgot our males. I haven't forgot you at all. Men are no way immune from inequality. If you think so, if you think so, then think again. Men go through the same as women on a daily basis. Men are expected to be strong and bold, but don't they have feelings and thoughts like anybody else? Our females go through the same exact thing too. Men are being turned away, laughed at just because of what they are going through. Sorry. Our men are being raped, abused, emotional distress, mood swings as well. When a man goes through any of the stated or more, society shun them or look the other way. Just because of how society responds to the cries and problems of our male, they now tend to hide the emotions and avoid being called soft or quote-unquote feminine. Our women and men also need support, so let's give it to them. Gender and work. Gender bias is most visible with the professional settings. It can simply be by your occupation, such as a mason or engineer, or even a carpenter, and it's assumed that the person is male. On the other hand, when you hear someone is doing makeup or teaching or a nail technician, it's thought to be a woman. My question is, how much women would you see in an executive position? Many females will leave this position alone. Reason why? I said it's because when it comes to a woman starting a family, she would obviously need maternity leave or time away from work to heal or bounce back. These types of work require 24/7 attention, and working there's no space for time off. Based on how much time is taken away from the work, it's most likely passed on to somebody else, who is most likely a male, because he has a more advantage when it comes to these position and environment.
Member, you have 1 minute left.
Okay. Speaking of men, they also need similar time off to help with the household and be there for his wife and family during this need part of their life with a new transition. Gender and education. Many times during my school life, I've seen teachers, also classmates, judge students, both male and female, just because of what study area or career they are doing. It's either too girly or boyish, and they either pick different subjects or just stay and get criticized about it. And trust me, that can mess with your studying at the end of it all. Let's face it, everybody. Everybody had problems in their school life. But I think if you're a female or a male, depending on the situation, some are more complicated than others. When we invest in a female's education, the child marriage rate goes down, maternal death rate decreases, etc. For males, there are school dropouts just to earn money, be independent, child labor, joining of gang violence, and the list goes on. Or just to say, once one gender is going through something, so will the other. Might not be equal, but
Member,
equivalent.
you have exceeded your time. The speaking time for the member is extended by 2 minutes.
Thank you. Be aware of gender stereotypes. Recognize them, avoid them, and educate others about them. Whenever you see or become aware, whether in a workplace, home, streets, it don't matter. Raise a voice against it. Equality today for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
I now call on the youth premier to The mover of the motion to wrap up this debate, Ms. Helen Trim.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I am thankful to the members on this side for showing support for the motion by their contribution. In fact, I actually thought for a moment there was no opposition in the House. I am happy that everyone here today understood that gender inequality does not only affect women, but men and boys and girls. I am also pleased that all here recognize climate change and the effects it has. So we should realize that based on our experience and based on all the research, climate change is indeed a great effect on our island, on our people, and we must do something so that we would be able to cope with it and even push back, or things would be better or different. There are others who had experience in the workplace, which was challenging based on their skill or their profession. And we all agree that gender equality affects all of us. Even the men and boys, how they are socialized, we have to be very, very concerning about that, because based on their experience, it affects us all also. We are also concerned about women, single mothers, and even the access to social services and assistance for them to be in a better place. Members, I hear you all. We know that gender inequality gravely impacts all of us. However, based on our contribution and this motion, I would like to thank you all, and that we should keep hope and let us continue to prove and encourage one another by voting for this motion. I thank you.
Whereas equality is determined by the United Nations as equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities of women and men, as well as girls and boys. Whereas women and girls have unique challenges that they face. Whereas men and boys also have experience unique to them. Whereas equality of status remains a priority for the island of Tobago. Whereas the theme for International Women's Day is Changing Climates, Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Be it resolved that this House recommits its effort to supporting women and girls in a society that is deeply rooted in also protecting the environment. Members, the motion presented, all in favor say aye. All against, say nay. The ayes have it.
I beg to move that the House be adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Members, the question is that this House stands adjourned to a date to be fixed. All in favor say aye. All against? The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.